just for anyone who's not here. All right. So this is sort of our social media landscape. This is the percentage of US adults who say they use social media platforms. So as you can see, YouTube is the most used platform. 73% of adults in the US use YouTube the most. Facebook then comes in second. Instagram comes in third. Sorry, let me admit Quinn, who's just joining us. Hi, Quinn. Welcome. We're just jumping in to class right now. Submitting. All right. Hi, everybody who just joined. We're just jumping into platforms and audiences. So just giving the landscape that YouTube is number one used app by US adults. Then comes Facebook. Then comes Instagram, followed by Pinterest, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Twitter, and even WhatsApp has made the cut there on the bottom. This is a little bit older because we're not done with 2019, or we are done with 2019, but they haven't come out with the Pew Research results for 2019 yet. I gather TikTok will make its debut on this list after 2019 since it was the most downloaded app of 2019. But any of these other things surprise anybody in terms of where they are at in the order?
YouTube being so high.
Yeah, YouTube. I think the biggest thing there is, think about maybe your parents and what they do and do not do. Maybe they do know how to YouTube, right? Maybe they've looked up a video there, sort of similar to Googling something, but they might necessarily have a Twitter or Snapchat. So since this is US adult, it's a very wide age range. I think it's 18 to 60, if I remember correctly.
I'm surprised I don't know if can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm surprised that Pinterest is above like Snapchat and LinkedIn and Twitter and WhatsApp. That's kind of a shocker.
Yeah, another one I think that maybe your age range isn't as tapped into, but Pinterest again, sort of we'll talk about based on demographics, but that 35 plus range is definitely on Pinterest. And we'll talk about, sort of the pros and cons of all of our different age demographics in terms of spending money and things like that. If some classes are shocked by Twitter and how far on the bottom it is here. I think, again, this just goes back to sort of age demographics, and maybe Twitter is really, really popular with you and your friends, not on the larger spectrum of things. Or like I have a Twitter, but I don't use it as much as I should as a journalist. But it was really popular for me when I was in high school, and then it sort of died again when I was in college. And now I think it has this kind of second awakening, maybe because our president uses it so much, but I don't know. But it kind of had this surge. Cool. All right, so we're gonna keep on keeping on here. So this is that usage among different age groups like I talked about. So maybe this sheds a little bit of light. So YouTube, 56% of 50 plus year olds are using YouTube, but 94% of all the other age ranges are also kind of popping on there. So that's sort of, it's very widespread in terms of the ages that use it. Same with Facebook. And again, this is just if you have a Facebook account, right? So maybe you aren't active on Facebook as much anymore, but maybe you still have an account. So Facebook is still very large in this spectrum, even though I know a lot of you think that Facebook is dying or it's not the most relevant thing. We'll talk about its advantages in this class. I don't think it's dying anytime soon, but I don't know, MySpace died and a lot of other ones like that died. So Snapchat is definitely on the younger side of things. So we'll consider that in terms of our advertising. If you're only targeting a younger demographic, then, Snapchat might be the place for you. Instagram, very, very young, again, sort of in that under 25 range. Twitter, spread out a little bit more than Snapchat and Instagram, but still pretty young, about 50% on the younger side of things. So just something to consider in terms of who are on these platforms, but we'll break it down more specifically throughout this PowerPoint. So we'll start off with Facebook, our good friend. So there are over 2.23 billion monthly active Facebook users. And like I said, 2019 isn't quite out yet. So these are as of 2018. The most common age demographics, 25 to 34. So a little bit older than y'all, I guess more in my range of things. Nearly 30% of its users are in that age range. The good thing about 25 to 34 is supposedly we're supposed to have more expendable income than you guys might have. So we have our first jobs, maybe we're a little bit further into our jobs if we're in our early 30s. So we have a little bit more money to spend. Maybe we're getting married, maybe we're having kids. So we're going to be buying more than maybe an 18-year-old would. Usage also skews female, so 76% of Facebook users are female, and you'll see a lot of these sites do tend to skew female, so pay attention to the ones that don't. High engagement rate, that is key with Facebook. So as a user, you might not use it as much, but the engagement rate on Facebook is one of the highest of all the platforms. So 74% use it daily, 51% use it several times per day still. So this is out of all the different age ranges. But this engagement rate is really, really important. People are logging on multiple times a day. Facebook also has a very, very high click-through rate. So if you're sharing something that has a link, people might be more likely to click it. If you think about Instagram's features, even though I think Instagram is sort of the next new thing, it's really hard to click links on Instagram. So you can only have one link in the bio. And if you click in, you have to navigate to the bio to even click the link. You can put it in the content, but people can't click it. If anyone's interested in sort of adding more links than in one, there's a website called Linktree, Linktree, and that is a really cool site. So you'll have one link in your bio, but if you click on it, or if your user clicks on it, it'll give your user an option of clicking to different links. So that way you can have one link that goes to your website, your Spotify, your Facebook, wherever. And that's a really helpful tool that I use in my own social media management. That was an aside, but highest traffic occurs midweek between 1 to 3 p.m. with the average time spent of 20 minutes. I'm a little bit cautious with giving you guys like best times and best days. I know that's sort of like when you first learn about social media management, it's like, okay, Mondays from 3 to 5 p.m. are our best days to post. This is very, very specific to your brand and to who your audience is. So you can look topically and you'll see lots of websites advertise that if you're a fashion brand, you should post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 a.m. or whatever it is. I would be cautious with that. You need to experiment with your own social media use and actually see when your audience is logging on. Of course, there's times of day that make the most sense, like usually in the morning when people are commuting to work or just sort of opening up their computers and maybe scroll through Facebook one more time during lunchtime, and then after work as well. People tend to be less on their social media on the weekends, but with quarantine, who knows, that's probably off now, but just something to think about. Today, roughly half of US teens, so that younger group 13 to 17, say they use Facebook, which is notably lower than YouTube, Instagram, or Snapchat. So for those of you who think Facebook is dying, maybe it is, because that new younger generation isn't really taking to Facebook as much as my generation did, I guess. Any questions on Facebook? I think Facebook's legal issues and some of its challenges with that you may or may not have heard of have also, its credibility is down right now. But Facebook does own our good friend Instagram. So even if you love Instagram and you think Facebook is not credible, they are owned by the same group. So I think it's sort of its new saving grace is owning Instagram. So in June 2018, Instagram hit its 1 billion users milestone. So it's joining the ranks of Facebook and YouTube in terms of being in the billions. It happened a lot faster than Facebook and YouTube to get into the billions, but I think social media is just, more widely used now. Usage skews females again, so 38% of women in the US use Instagram, 26% of men. 59% of Instagrammers are under 30 years old, so definitely still quite young. 63% of American teens, 13 to 17-year-olds use Instagram daily. And they actually came only second to Snapchat as that group's most important social network. So definitely thriving with the younger generations as well. When you're writing your essays and things, and when you're starting to talk a little bit more like a social media manager, I really want you to get specific with these target demographics. I've had papers in the past that are like, oh, the influencers audience are young women. Okay, but young to you is not what young is to a 60-year-old, right? So we need to start working on giving target ranges. And maybe you don't really know, you're not the influencer, you're not the real manager, but you can sort of articulate, maybe the age range is 13 to 17, maybe it's 13 to 30. I don't know, depending on what you're seeing the influencer sell, might help you with that. But we need to be working on being a little bit more targeted with our approaches. Any questions on Instagram or Facebook? I know it's a lot of numbers. I just want you to sort of get the crux of where these sites are going. You don't need to be bogged down by all the percentages. Cool. It's weird not seeing your faces in this thing. You guys could be sleeping right now and I wouldn't even know it. Twitter. So it has 330 million monthly active users, so a bit smaller than the billions that we were talking about before. Only 69 million of these users are located in the US. So Twitter has a really large international base, that tells us. So maybe if you are a brand or a journalist who is trying to reach an international audience, Twitter is great for it. Usage is evenly distributed between males and females as well, so that's helpful if you're trying to reach both males and females. It doesn't skew either way, it's pretty close. 36% of Americans 18 to 29 old use Twitter more than any other age group, so that 18 to 29 is sort of a buying hotspot. 24 to 30 is really the best age to buy, but that wide range is also pretty good. The cool thing about Twitter is that it says that 80% of its users are, quote, affluent millennials. Does anyone want to explain what affluent millennials might mean?
Maybe like politically involved or interested millennials.
Yeah, so politics can definitely be a part of it. Affluent usually has to do with money. So people who are affluent might be making more money, but affluence also has to do with education. So you guys are all going to be affluent Gen Zers, unless you're a millennial, just because you're going to have that college degree. So college degrees go to our affluence. So money, college, maybe you're really involved in intellectual subjects like politics. That's the type of users who gravitate towards Twitter. So it's a little bit more on the spectrum of people who might be making more money or might have more earning potential. So if you're selling things that are a little bit more expensive, you might want to go to Twitter just because there are people who can afford what you're selling. So congratulations, you're all going to be affluent Gen Zers after college. Whether or not you make money or not, that college degree gives you some affluence. Twitter promotes its niche of being the #1 source for real-time news. So they categorize themselves as a news app, not a social networking app. They do distinct that a lot. Like you said, politics definitely has taken its toll on Twitter, maybe just because we've had some prominent politicians use Twitter the most. But definitely a news app as well. For my reporter that I work for, we have our largest following on Twitter. I think Twitter is really easy in terms of not clogging up people's timelines. I don't know, Instagram, people don't really like when you post more than once and you have 2 pictures for them, just a weird human thing. But on Twitter, I can tweet or retweet multiple times a day and people don't tend to unfollow because of that. It kind of gives you more room to put information out there, maybe because there's not as many visuals attached to it or just their algorithms. 74% of the Twitter users say they use the network to get their news. Do you all agree? Do any of you primarily use Twitter to get news information?
Yes.
Yes. Normally I'd make you guys raise your hands, but I can't see anyone's face. So yeah, just think about your own use when we talk about this too, if this applies to you or not. But yeah, I think Twitter definitely is a news app now. And like I said, 45% have a college degree who use Twitter. So they might have above average incomes. They might live in more urban areas, more cities. So just think about that when you're thinking about targeting demographics. Moving right along to YouTube. So this has, and again, in the billions of monthly active users, 31 million daily active users. The average viewing session is 40 minutes long. That is so much time out of your day. Think about all the excuses you have for not working out for 30 minutes, but we might spend time on YouTube for 40 minutes. It's pretty incredible. Usage skews male, so 62% of YouTube users are male. 35 plus and 55 plus are actually the fastest growing YouTube demographics. So YouTube, as well as Facebook, might be getting a little bit older, maybe because its users used to be young and now we're getting older. Not quite in the 35 plus range yet, but has been around for a while. Millennials prefer YouTube 2-to-1 over traditional television. So does any of you have cable news or cable TV?
No.
No, yeah.
My parents have it, but I don't use it.
See, parents, yes. Yep, so that we're the streaming generation, right? We stream Netflix, we stream Hulu, maybe we're using YouTube TV. That's sort of the next realm for YouTube. So that's probably contributes to why it's so popular. We're sort of moving away, and even our parents might be moving away from cable. They kind of notice that, it's $140 when we could watch things for a lot cheaper monthly. 37% of the 18 to 34 demographic are binge watching. So that goes to that 40 minutes, or when Netflix asks you if you're still watching and you begrudgingly click, yes, I'm still watching. I'm just not moving that much on the couch. So we're doing that on YouTube as well. That was me all day yesterday watching Outlander. YouTube was bought by Google in 2006 for lots of money. So this is really, really important to know. So I don't know if any of you have known that. You might have already knew that, but Google owns YouTube. Google is the largest search engine. YouTube is the second largest search engine. It counts as that because it sort of has a googly setup if you think about it. You type in keywords and boom, you're directed to video content. Every time you search something on Google, that contributes to your social footprint that YouTube then uses to target ads to you. So if you look up Doritos on Google, you might see some Doritos ads later on your YouTube page. They are linked, and you use Google a lot more than you even think about it. It knows you. It knows your gender. It knows your interests. It might know what sites you go on. It might know what products you might be more interested in buying. So on sort of the creepy side of things, that contributes heavily to sort of your advertisement. But since we're on the other side of the spectrum, we are the producers rather than the consumers in this class a lot of the time. YouTube advertisements can be very, very powerful, because if you make an ad, YouTube's going to direct that ad directly to the people who will connect with it the most. And YouTube ads, which we'll talk about later, and paid advertising can be very, very cheap depending on how you do it. Any questions on YouTube, social media creepiness? Anyone have some ads that are creepy? I know we have a lot of those moments now where you might be talking about something and then, the ad pops up on your Instagram or your YouTube. And some of that, we kind of have these conspiracy theories that our phones are listening to us, and I don't know, maybe they are. But actually a lot of that is just sort of your social media profile. Like your phones and your computers and these apps are starting to know you more than you know yourself. And every time you go on a website and you say okay to those terms and conditions that we all just click okay to and don't read, some of those terms and conditions can actually be, we can sell your information to marketers. And a lot of the sites do that. So there's been tons of studies, especially on Facebook, based on the Facebook pages you like, they can build a whole profile for you. So pretty cool stuff. And we'll talk about that on the psychological point of view as well later in this class. So Snapchat, which many of you might be on since you are in the younger bracket here, 300 plus million monthly active users. 71% of Snapchat users are under 34. 45% are between 18 to 24. People under the age of 25 use Snapchat for 40 minutes. So again, a very long piece of time when you're thinking about how long it takes to take a Snapchat and send it. Usage skews female. Active Snapchatters open the app 18 plus times every single day. So maybe your homework for yourself can be to check how many times you're opening this app. The average daily user of Snapchat creates more than 20 messages or snaps per day, and it became a publicly traded company in the New York Stock Exchange in 2017. So sort of adding to its legitimacy as a force to be reckoned with in terms of apps for the next couple of years. So again, lots of young people. So maybe if you have products geared towards young people, Snapchat might be the place. When we talked about in the vocab section, even though I wasn't physically with you, in terms of those clickbait ads, I'd say Snapchat is definitely notorious for clickbait. So think about how you feel when you are clickbaited on Snapchat. Does it make you want to keep reading? Does it make you want to buy the product, or does it piss you off and you leave the site instantly? So just think about your own use when we connect these vocab words to these platforms. Pinterest, which some of you were surprised to see its popularity. For the males in my class, maybe you are not pinners, but good news, 40% of new signups are men. So you can add to that percentage if you want to go make a Pinterest profile. Right now, it definitely skews female. 200 plus million monthly active users, so still pretty big, right underneath Snapchat here. 1 out of 2 US millennials use Pinterest every month. So millennials are the biggest age group. We use millennials as a catch-all phrase, but what I consider a millennial is about anyone who is 1997 and to the 80s. So about 25 to 50-ish can be millennials. Here they're using the younger group of millennials. But Pinterest continues to be female-centric, but like I said, 40% of men are now the new signups. The most popular categories to browse are DIY, craft food and drink, and home decor. The reason I add that onto this slide is just because, again, think about right now you're not working for a brand necessarily, but when you are working for a brand, maybe you work really well on Pinterest. If you're IKEA, if you are Sephora, there are some really great companies that go on Pinterest and do creative things. So IKEA does really cool packages, especially with dorm essentials, where they'll do a one-tap ad, which we'll talk about later, where you just click on the picture and it redirects you to IKEA's site, and bam, you can buy that headboard for your college dorm room. 86% of millennials say they use Pinterest to plan life moments, and 93% of pinners use Pinterest to plan purchases. So again, even if you aren't a pinner, it's a really powerful tool for selling things, just because it's so visual. It's so easy to click on something and be redirected to your website in order to buy something. LinkedIn, one of the OG social media platforms. You might not even consider it a social media platform, but really the ultimate networking site. 106 million monthly active users. Many of you were probably forced to make these pages in your high school days or early college days. Definitely important for work. 44% are female, 56% male, so another one that skews male. This one's a little bit older, so 61% of its users are 30 to 64. Again, when we're thinking of buying power, just like Twitter, this group is very affluent. They have established careers. They are maybe at the peak earning potential of their lives. They might be very high up in their jobs. They have money to spend on things. Almost a quarter, though, are also 18 to 29. And when you think about this group, the reason I include they're looking for their first job, they're establishing their career, they're getting married. Because again, when you're thinking about the brand that you are, you might work really well on LinkedIn for advertising. If people are finding new homes and moving out of the dorms and getting married, maybe Purple Mattress would do really well on LinkedIn because people need their big girl mattresses and they have some more money to buy it with their first job money. 50% of business-to-business buyers, that's what B2B means, use LinkedIn when making purchasing decisions. So if you're Target and you're buying a smaller brand to use in your stores, a lot of that happens on LinkedIn. So just something to think about. I know the time is ticking. It gives me anxiety when I see that. But that is all I have in terms of platforms and audiences. I also have some information on TikTok. If any of you, I know you guys are all TikTok people, or most of you are. So I can post that online if you're interested to hear about TikTok's new thing, but they are relatively new. So some of these demographics are going to be fluctuating in the next couple of years. So these are sort of the bigger ones that have been around. For your quiz, what you'll mostly need to know, and how I suggest you study for it, is to go through all of these different statistics and demographics, etc., and just sort of break down, okay, these platforms skew male, these platforms skew female, these are the top 3 apps used by people. This is the age range that's most popular for these apps. So just sort of those basic information. I'm not going to ask you what percent of Instagrammers in the US are under 30. But I just want you to generally understand the differences between the apps based on your sort of understanding of their demographics. I'm going to put my face back on here. Any questions that I can address? I know we went through that pretty fast, but you're all on mute now. Okay. Well, if any questions arise before your quiz, let me know. Your quiz is considered closed, even though I know it's tempting. We're online and things. But please do your best to just go through the slideshows beforehand, understand what's going on a bit, and then jump into that quiz without any notes. Like I said, then you'll have your Hootsuite assignment, which will be due Friday. Make sure you're doing these assignments and these discussion boards. They do contribute to your grade, especially because we can't participate in person. It'll really help me in terms of determining your participation grade if you're doing these discussion and assignment things. But that is pretty much platforms and audiences. Any other comments, questions, recipes, life advice? Everyone doing well in the quarantine still?
Yeah, bored.
You're bored? Yeah, definitely. Maybe we'll have a discussion board of some creative projects that we're doing to pass the time in quarantine. But hopefully there's been some positive news out there that things are getting a little bit better in some places. I worked in New York for a while, so I have some friends who live there still, and it's pretty crazy over there. All of them have fled the city, which probably wasn't good because then they went other places. So yeah. All right. Well, sufficiently quiet online class, but thank you for those who participated. I know it's strange online. But if you have any questions, email me, text me, whatever you need. Get those assignments done for this week. The quiz one is open too, so if you want to do it before Wednesday, that's fine. If you only have internet certain times of day, that sounds good with me. So I will see you guys. I think we are meeting again rather than next Monday. We're meeting next Wednesday. So I'll send you a little note later this week about what you need to do for Monday as well. You'll be doing a customer service activity as well as a reading for that class. So yeah, you're all free to go. Enjoy the rest of your quarantine day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.